Well, I'm Sarban Singh. I'm 1983 batch IAS officer of Haryana cadre. And prior to joining the service, I was in the Indian Economic Service. And fortunately, I got into the Indian Economic Service in my first attempt, and that gave me a lot of boost. And I thought I could make it to the IAS, and finally I could. Incidentally, when I was in the college, I got motivated at joining the service when one evening there was a cultural program in my college, and the local deputy commissioner, Mr. Ram Gopal, he came to our college as a chief guest, and I was a student of pre-university at that time. And my principal, one of the stalwarts of the educational institution in the country, Mr. B.S. Bal, he received the chief guest, that is a deputy commissioner. And I was elated to see that one person alighting from a car and being received and welcomed by my principal is occupying such a senior position. At that time, frankly speaking, I didn't know how to get into the service, and that is how initially I was inspired to join the service. As I mentioned, I came to know about the IAS in the early 70s, and ever since then, I always wanted to be in the service, and I started knowing as to what is the system, what is the procedure, and what is the setup to get into this job. Then I started going to the library in my college, and I started studying my magazines on general knowledge, including Competition Success Review, Competition Master, and also the daily English newspapers. And I got a lot of information from these magazines and papers. And also I started knowing that students of my college who were studying there in my college, they were getting into the service. I still remember the names of Sushil Kumar IAS and Harish Dogra, Indian Foreign Service officer, who joined the service in 1973, and their photos and biodata came in the DAV news pull out in the college. So that's how by and by I got a lot of information and motivation about the system and how to get into this. So for that, I immediately after doing my BA graduation from my college, I joined my MA economics, and by the time I was completing my MA in economics, I got offer from banking sector that I joined, and thereafter I joined the Indian Economic Service as I just mentioned. And while being in the Indian Economic Service, I still had a liking for the IAS, so I continued my efforts and opportunities for joining the IAS. And in that, I didn't go to any coaching center. It was purely self-study. And after getting into the Indian Economic Service, I was undergoing 2 years training. So during those 2 year training period, I couldn't focus on the IAS preparations. But the moment I completed my Indian Economic Service training, I started being serious on the IAS, and then I did all my self studies. And in the first attempt, I cleared the prelims, but I was not able to clear the mains. In the second attempt, I cleared the mains, but was not able to clear the interview. And finally, in the third attempt in 1982 exam, I was able to crack it, and I got into the IAS. That's how by and by I was able to reach the target I had cherished long back in the early 70s. On joining IAS, I was allotted Haryana cadre. Originally, I belonged to a small village of district Jalandhar in Punjab, so I was happy that I was allotted Haryana cadre. After 2 years training, I was posted as SDM, then as additional deputy commissioner, then as deputy commissioner, then as director and joint secretary, commissioner and financial commissioner. Then finally, I retired in 2014 as additional chief secretary in the rank of chief secretary. To be frank, I think the best thing I have achieved in my life on the career front is the IAS. And given a choice, I will request God to make me again IAS officer in the next innings also, in the next life also, if it is there. So I don't think in India or for that matter in the world, there can be anything better than the IAS. Everybody has his own viewpoint, but I think this is the best IAS service that give you lot of opportunities of serving our brethren at the ground level and meeting them, solving their problems on the spot and on the ground, and also interacting with them face to face with the public and knowing the ground realities of life, of society, of people, and of being immediate use to them, immediate help to them. So I think, and also I was always available to the public at any time. I had not fixed any timings for meeting me. I had given very open timings so that anybody from any part of the area where I was serving can meet me. It was not that if somebody is coming from the village or from any corner of my area of operation was not able to allow to meet me, maybe at late hours in the evening, maybe even midnight, I was always open. Let us say there is some some fire broke out somewhere, so it is not that you will say that it is not my meeting time, so you have to be available to the public. That was my way of working, and thank God that everybody wherever I worked was largely happy with my style of work. Well, one of the most discussed topic these days in the society, in the bureaucracy, and everywhere is the subject of corruption. Of course, this is a very big issue to be dealt with by everyone. And corruption is not one-way traffic; it is both-way traffic. So there has to be some kind of understanding between the public and the people who are dealing with the public, that is officers and the government officials. So if the public is not giving any kind of gratification or any temptation to the government machinery, government functionaries, there is no question of corruption. So I think first of all, our society need to teach itself, and simultaneously officers are also part of the same society, government functionaries are also part of the same society. So it is, both are complementary to each other. So I think the best way to eradicate corruption from the society is that there should not be any giver. If there is no any giver, there can't be any taker. So I think the best way to treat this problem is that the society should not offer any kind of temptation to the government machinery. And what I have felt over the last couple of decades, ever since I joined service, is that the overall public's perception about the corruption has been largely tackled, but of course it is still prevalent. I will not claim that it is totally eradicated, but there is certainly a lot of efforts made by the government, maybe in the shape of good governance and also bringing out new legislations, including right to information, right to service act, and so many other tools to check the corruption and also to bring about transparency in the system. So incidentally, as I was approaching my superannuation, I got this job of commissioner in the right to service commission. First, I was is the newly founded body in the state of Haryana, that is the Haryana Right to Service Commission, and the major objective of this commission was to make the system more transparent. So to bring about that transparency, there was a deadline fixed for delivery of services. So we set up this commission under the Haryana Right to Service Act 2014 in the same year, and I was one of the commissioners. We have one chief commissioner, 4 commissioners, and we on joining on the commission, we toured the state. We had division level meetings with the commissioners, where all the deputy commissioners, all the field functionaries, all the senior district officers participated. We had a lot of interactive sessions, and also that and after that we also made visits to various offices to ensure that the things were happening on the ground. And I can claim that with the introduction of these kind of good governance tools, the things have improved and the corruption level has certainly come down, and still there is a long way to go, and we should continue making our efforts. And I spent my 5 years in this commission, Haryana Right to Service Commission, and it so happened that when I was about to retire from the Haryana Right to Service Commission, there was the post of Chief Commissioner that fell vacant, and I had the fortune to occupy that post. The government gave me that post of Chief Commissioner, and I retired in that post of Chief Commissioner in July 2019 after on completion of my 5-year tenure. Well, there is another point of discussion sometimes that the candidates who are coming from rural area are at the disadvantage in the UPSC exams or higher competitive exams. I think this is not a right notion. This is a misconceived concept or feeling. It is not so. It purely depends upon your efforts and the level of input you are giving for this exam. Take my example. I am from a typical rural area. I studied in the village school where we didn't have even benches. We used to sit on the floor and get our school education, the primary education. Then I went to the college, where of course it was one of the best educational institutions, DAV College Jalandhar. And that is how I got the idea of IAS, from that college only. And after that, in the UPSC also, I was never at any disadvantage that I was from rural area. There were so many options within the syllabus where you can have your own choice and you can express yourself. So never have this notion in your mind that you're from rural area or from urban area. Both have their own advantages, so one should not leave track of those advantages, and one should not focus on the disadvantages if at all they are there. Always focus on the positive side of the story. My piece of advice to the youngsters who are aspiring to be civil servants is that, number one, have patience. Number two, have confidence in yourself. And number three, nothing for a civil servant aspirant is extra. Whatever is available with you in the books, magazines, TV, social media, you try to grab that, but don't mix up, don't make a mess of it. Focus on your studies, and also always be serious and sincere to your efforts, because you can't ditch yourself, you can't ditch the examiner, you can't ditch the question paper. So you have to have full confidence in yourself, and at the same time be sincere to the studies you are doing. And the strategy differs from person to person. I will not say that the same strategy is universal. Everybody has his own strategy. As we have grown up studying from primary, then college, then competitions, we all know our personal strategies, and by and large one should continue with those strategies. So it may be self-study, it may be coaching, or online or social media, whatever, but the idea, you should be clear about your strategy. So you should not follow others. You always follow yourself. You always think and have confidence that whatever study you are doing the best. And some people may be going to the coaching center, somebody may be going to some kind of training institutes, somebody may be doing online, somebody may be going doing self-studies. Like in my case, I never went to any coaching center, not even for a single day, neither for my IES, IAS. I did all my studies on the basis of my personal notes, class books of my school, college days. And I feel proud that even today, after having left my college maybe 50 years ago, I still am preserving those class notes and also those class books on the basis of which I got into these services. And my children, both my children, also in one way in the civil service, they had their own strategy. Like my son got into Haryana Civil Service in his first attempt. My daughter got into Indian Economic Service in her first attempt. And I would say that they didn't necessarily follow my study. They had their own studies. My son went to one training institute initially, but then later on he did his self-studies independently. My daughter also didn't go to any coaching center. She did, but they left. It was their choice. They did their own coaching in their own way. So it is personal. It is your own choice. I will not give any judgment whether self study is the best or the coaching is the best. It is the best is the study which makes you succeed. So I just say nothing succeeds like success. I would say that every strategy is the best, and depends to what extent we can succeed on the basis of that strategies. My all the best wishes to all the aspirants and to everybody who is aspiring to be a civil servant. Thank you.